Hey, here we are for another episode of A Drink from Upstream. Thanks for joining me as always. And today is episode number 50 for A Drink from Upstream. So we're going to be in the book of James today in verses 16 and 17. And if you're watching this on the day that it's scheduled to come out, it's December 1st. So with Thanksgiving being just the weekend before, and now being in the month of December, it is quite official. We are in the holiday season. This is the season for celebrating the goodness of God and celebrating that time with family and with friends and with gift exchanges and all those good things. And so I want to read these verses to you, and then we'll talk about them for just a moment. So James chapter 1, starting in verse 16, he begins and he says, "Do not be deceived, my beloved brothers." That's the whole of verse 16, real simple. Like, boy, that's a loaded statement. Don't be deceived, my beloved brothers. So here we are, brothers and sisters. Here we are, loved, dearly loved by God and really by others as well. And there's a caution given: don't be deceived. Now, what he has just talked about previous in this first chapter of the book of James is the source of temptation, that trials come our way that are meant to perfect us, to make us better, to grow us and mature us. But temptation, that which is an allure towards sin, does not come from God, but that comes from within, and it comes from without. And so what we're not to be deceived about is thinking that those things are coming from God. Now, he reminds us that we're loved. And then in verse 17, he says this: "Every good and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights." It's kind of an interesting way of describing God. He's the Father of lights. It's a reference to his creation of the universe, the lights being the sun and the stars and that which is, a part of what we would call the heavens. And so every good and perfect gift comes down from above. And in this season of gift giving, it's good to remember, it's good to take time and think through the good gifts that God has given to us and continues to give to us, including life itself. And now let's not think about stuff. Let's not think about material goods, though those can be good and wonderful gifts as well. But let's think about other things that are substantive. If your mind works relatively well, thank God for that good and perfect gift. If your body is relatively healthy, thank God for that good and perfect gift. If you have friends, if you have good neighbors, maybe not all of them, but if you have good neighbors, some of them are good, that's great, right? Those are good gifts. If you have a church family that is legit and that cares about you and that is true about striving and earnest about striving to serve God faithfully, those are good gifts. Think about the freedoms and the liberties that you have. Though there are so many good gifts that we need to be careful to thank God for. And so you take time and think through those things and offer God praise. But then the last part of verse 17 will end with this. It says, "So these good and perfect gifts come down from the Father of life." And then it says this, the Father of lights. Then it says this: "With whom there is no variation or shadow due to change." So this God who gives us all of his good and perfect gifts is an unchanging God. There is no shadow in God. God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. That's what the Apostle John says. And so there's no shadow in God. There's no variation with God. There's no changing. God is the same. In fact, the book of Hebrews talks about Jesus specifically and says that he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so one of the great things about knowing and serving the one true God is you actually don't have to wonder whether or not you're pleasing to him. You rest in his grace and you continue to grow in that grace. and you know that your acceptance by him is not based upon your merit, but on the merit of Jesus Christ. That is the gospel, right? And then you strive by that grace to order your life in a way that is pleasing to God. And you don't have to wonder what pleases him. He tells us clearly in his word what pleases him. So in the midst of a shadowy world, in the midst of a ever-changing world, we serve a God who is thoroughly good and who is unchanging in that goodness. So there you go, a drink from Upstream. God bless you.